Alright, this is a Westfield game that I had last night in the RU-251, the Tier 8 German light tank, and I know I just made a highlight of this, but dagnammit, we're doing another one. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Westfield. That's the reason why I chose this particular highlight. A lot of people, if you've ever watched the stream, you know that I always complain about people camping over on this E0 line and on this K6 area, and particularly medium tanks tend to do that a lot. And so I want to illustrate a little bit about what you should be doing and where you can potentially go throughout this match. And I usually find that the most important battle is in this middle area here, this sort of F6, F7, G6, G7 area for both teams. And it's important to control that area, not only to spot the outsides there, but to make sure that your team doesn't get spotted if they come in through that passage. And so I'll head over there, usually when I am in a fast tank, light or mediums. There's several bushes that you can use to spot along this K line of anybody pushing forward, and it's also important for being able to get some shots. And we'll talk about that in a second. And then so I'll wait a little bit longer until we get a little bit more dispersed. And like I said, you can go, there's a number of bushes that you can go to over here, and you can see that we have some tanks that are going up into this lower aqueduct area, which is okay, and some tanks that are still hanging out here. And I'll talk in a little bit about where they should be in order to actually get shots. As we're waiting for the enemy team to show up. And then so I'm going to stop it right now for a second. And so see how our MT25 is pushing up over here? That's good. So basically, like on a lot of maps, you have lane synergy. So like this 7 lane, this 0 lane tend to work well together. You can say the same for the G lane and the K lane if you're on the other side. So like as this MT25 pushes it forward, he's going to be able to spot for me. And on the counter to that, where in my position where I'm at right now, I can spot for him. So if anything tries to push up here, I'll be able to spot for him. So where should you be if you're medium tanks? So our medium tanks are all too far back. This Panther and this Super Pershing here would have a much better time if they were up here, like just behind me by about 50 to 100 meters on this hill right here, because then they could get shots on anything that was lit over here. The problem that most people have is that you don't recognize that you have somebody up here spotting for you. So basically what I can spot is all the way down here to this K line, and I can spot depending on where they go, anything that can potentially spot them coming in. So it's a good position to take is if you're these guys just right here. So if you're these guys on this aqueduct right here, you don't want to be right there. So given the fact that you have somebody in this G7 area and you have another light tank going along this outside, these guys should be pushing up behind this light tank. So they should be about right here right now. And what that will enable them to do is that once somebody gets lit, they'll be able to shoot them right off. So we're going to light a Pershing that's headed towards that MT25, and then now it's just a matter of response time. And ideally you want to get him down before he can spot your duder out there. And then we have a Super Pershing that's pushing through this bottom here. And then predictably they have some guys camping over here. And our northwest looks okay for the moment. We're a little light staffed in the south town in that E5, E6 area. It's okay. So they have Super Pershing, Lorraine over there, T-34-2 immediately to my right, or immediately ahead of me, I guess you could say. But the 34-2 isn't really in a troubling position right now because he's not far enough forward to detect these guys back here. He doesn't have a good enough detect range to get the MT25, so he's not a threat to the team. But it would be nice if I relight these guys. And see how these guys are creeping up now? They should have crept up just a little bit earlier. But at least, late is better than never. And they do a good job of damaging in the late game. But see how these guys are being lit, and we're just sort of waiting for them to get taken down. Our super Pershing got killed. Their super Pershing is counter pushing through that lower area. So if I stay where I'm at, he's going to light me and be able to get shots. So I'm going to need to fall back here. And our MT-25 picks up their 1390. Unfortunately, it's a little bit too late, and 1390 is able to take him out. So we don't have much spotting left on this side. We have myself in this middle here, and then we'll have fire support from these two mediums, potentially. But that's not really a whole lot, given, you know, all the things that they still have here. Looks like we're doing okay on the north, but by the time I get up there, it's going to be pretty dire. So even though we've traded very well on the south here, we haven't really traded very well on the other side. And so this T-26, the Super Pershing, has continued to push forward, and I can't continue pushing up towards the village right there, because otherwise the Lorraine and anything else back there, the 1390 and potentially the T-34-2 will be able to shoot me as I go up. So I have to take the long way around. And once again, so I know the Super Pershing is pushing forward, so it's not really that important for me to stay in this area. It's better if I relocate and see what I can do on the north, because it's not like I'm going to be able to counter push effectively against the Super Pershing, and these guys aren't really in a good spot to shoot the Super Pershing right off. And so this E-75 has pushed forward over here. He's overextended a little bit. So their 1390 backed off over here, so this type is pushing the Super Pershing, and the Patton that's over here isn't really helping them out too much. They have a Ferdinand out there as well. So many guys camping K6. So sad. So I'm trying to get into a position where I can help this STI by bouncing an E-75. And they still have an artillery available, and we see that their waffle is down in that K6 area as well. Which makes it, you know, it's kind of astounding how we lost the Northwest if they have that many players camping in the back.
It's a trap!
And so their 1390 had backed off over here, but this area is still open, so I can drive across and potentially spot the artillery.
It's a trap!
Gegnerisches Fahrzeug ausgeschaltet. Der ging voll durch ihre Panzerung.
And then now it's just pretty much clean up and just a matter of figuring out where exactly they are. They're mostly camping back on this K line. But anyway, so as I was saying, one of the major gripes that I have for the way people play this map, particularly with mediums and lights, is that they tend to camp in that K6 or the F0 position. And so again, I think this sort of highlights this idea that if you can light through that middle there, and your team can just move up just a little bit, and by just a little bit, I really mean just like one square to a position where they can get better lanes of fire, that you can really decimate a team. Their team did basically the same thing as us. They had a lot of guys camping on that K area, but the difference is that their T-34-2 wasn't aggressive enough to spot anything, whereas I was more forward, so I was able to pick up a lot of their tanks. And basically being able to push them off of that side like that allows our team to tee off on those guys, more or less.
It's a trap!
Kette wurde getroffen. Sie kann jeden Moment reißen.
pretty much the ball game there. So I guess in summary, like I said, I still think that playing this middle area is really important, but you don't want to be so passive that you can't spot anything. You can be a little bit more aggressive here simply because you're on a slope, and if you get lit, it's very easy to use the hill to accelerate downwards and then run backwards. Like you could see, I could even do it in reverse when that super Pershing spotted me as I was going up that hill. It was really easy for me to reverse back down this hill. It's the same thing you can do, and there's a lot of bushes over here that you can use to spot. So if their T-34-2 had been more aggressive early on, he could have potentially lit me, and with the number of guys that they had back here, they could have potentially gotten me before I could have backed off the hill far enough. Maybe. Depends on where they are positioning to shoot, because again, if they're too low on this hill, then they're not going to be able to shoot me. They have to actually be a little bit higher up. And it's the same thing from this zero line position. You have to be a little bit more forward to shoot where that T-34-2 is, but just because of the way the slope of the hill is. And it also depends on where on the hill they are exactly. Typically from that south side, I'll move up into these bushes in like the G6 area to light the F0. And from the south, I think it's a little bit easier because I think people tend to camp here a lot. But in this particular game, they put way too many guys back here, and they didn't have enough lights for those guys. So their guys were getting lit, but their guys didn't really have that much to shoot at. And so if we look at the stats, it pretty much plays out as one might expect. We were able to do top damage simply because we shot things. I mean, I don't really know how to say it other than that. A lot of it is, you know, it's not a huge alpha or a huge DPM machine, the RU-251, but it is really fast, and if you use it to relocate, so you're always using your gun, you're going to end up doing some damage. That's one of the nice things about the RU-251 is it does have the speed, which allows you to relocate. You know, we were playing that middle south. We relocated up top to try to help the STI with the E75, and then we were able to go along that plateau to spot the artillery and then come back. And so I think using that speed to your advantage is always going to be important. Anyhow, so I hope that that's a little bit more instructive. I know people always ask me when I complain about, you know, camping on Westfield, they're like, well, where should I go? So hopefully that explains a little bit more about where you can go. I guess I should say one more thing about Westfield, particularly so when people ask me where they should play in mediums, there's basically 3 areas that you should play in mediums on this east side of the map. One is up here, is this aqueduct, but you know, if you have spotters, you need to be able to move forward, and if you can get forward to here without being spotted, this is like the best spot to be in to shoot this side, this tree line right here. But you need somebody that knows how to play that middle. Like their T-34-2 basically he was close but not far enough. You know, it's like I always complain about surfers on Prokhorovka because they get close to the top of the hill where they can spot something and then they, you know, sort of pull back. And that's sort of the situation that the T-34-2 was in. He was in the right general area, but he needed to be another 50 meters forward in order to actually spot things. So anyways, the 3 areas that you can play from the side is over here on this zero line, but it's a little bit more forward depending on what you have in the middle. You can play in the middle, like I was saying, where the Super Pershing and the Panther should have gone, was essentially just behind me on this ridge here, because that allows you to shoot these guys here. Particularly as you go further up this hill, you'll get better shots on these guys over there. The third place that you can go is actually right here, sort of behind this building over here. And that allows you to do 2 things. That allows you to shoot any of these guys up here that get lit. And that also gives you some coverage in this low town area over here, which is usually pretty sparse in pub matches. Anyhow, so I hope that was helpful for Westfield, and thanks for watching.